Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to this very special meet and greet event with North Dakota State University's newest dean, Kimberly Wallin. We'll spend about half hour together today in a conversation with Dean Wallin, learning all about the College of Science and Mathematics. So thank you again for joining us. I'm John Glover, president of the NDSU Foundation. The foundation is the fundraising arm of the university, where our mission is to build enduring relationships that maximize advocacy and philanthropy to support NDSU. And certainly the College of Science and Mathematics is a pillar of the institution and relies heavily on the support of alumni and friends and important stakeholders throughout the land to be able to support their mission of teaching, service, and outreach. And so we're research and outreach. So we're really pleased to be able to have this conversation with Kimberly today. Throughout the program, we do have, we'll be utilizing the Q&A feature. And if you have a question for Dean Wallin, please click Q&A and submit your question. And we will have time at the end, toward the end of the program, to be able to roll through a few of those. So it is now my pleasure to welcome and have join with us Dean Kimberly Wallin.
Well,
how are you, Kim?
Good. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. It's great to be here today.
So Dean Wallin was hired by NDSU about a year ago at this time, with a plan to start in the spring. And it so happened that when Kimberly walked in to the NDSU community in March, this little pandemic began. And suddenly fast forward a few months, and we have not had much of an opportunity to introduce Dean Wallin to the NDSU community. And so that's what we wanted to do today. And so really an honor to be able to have this conversation with you. Dean Wallin has an extensive background at land-grant universities around the country, and she'll share with us a little bit about that here in a minute. But her undergraduate days at Minnesota, she had her graduate days at Wisconsin, spent a little bit of time in northern Arizona, and then certainly her faculty, research, and administration career up to this point at Vermont, Oregon State, and now North Dakota State. So you're on track to cover all the land grants in the country before you're done. So that'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, I mentioned earlier, really a unique time for you to start a new role in Fargo and on campus during the pandemic. But let's just start a little bit about your background and share a little bit more about your journey coming to Fargo.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the very nice introduction. I'll see if I can add a little bit to that. So like you said, I did grow up in Minnesota, right next door. I'm a first generation college student. So I started out thinking I was either going to be a lawyer or a doctor, because I honestly didn't know that there were so many other options out there. And so I started as a math and chemistry major, and then through some kind of cool things that happened, I discovered this whole area of forestry and entomology and fungi, and just a completely different field. And like you said, I earned my bachelor's of science degree in urban forestry. And during my undergraduate experience, I had the really great fortune of having good advisors and good mentors, and they encouraged me to pursue undergraduate research, and I did. And I found out I really liked it. And then they again encouraged me to apply for graduate school. And again, I didn't even know what graduate school was. So as you mentioned, University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I earned my master's and PhD in entomology. With a little bit background of, keeping the chemistry and then adding genetics to that as well. The normal track then is to go on and do a postdoc. I did that, but then I did something a little bit different from what I would have thought I would have done. I met someone, and we were in a long distance relationship, and kind of decided, is this going to work or not? And that's what brought me to Oregon State University, where I met my husband. And while there, I did move to University of Vermont. We had a family discussion and decided for various reasons to do that. But my husband at the time, well, he's still my husband, was an assistant professor, decided not to move because, well, we had done long distance before. Well, 13 years of him being in Oregon and me being in Vermont, back and forth, we got into a rhythm. But then, as you mentioned, moving to North Dakota, moving to Fargo, we moved here together, which was so exciting. And for any of you out there that are married, living apart, then all of a sudden living together is exciting. And then there's a pandemic. So yeah, we've gotten to know each other and again, and we're happy that we're together, and it's been fun.
So my question
Yeah.
is, when you came from Oregon
Mm-hmm.
and Vermont, who
Yep.
had the shortest drive from the two states to get to Fargo?
Oh, I think we might be right in the middle. But it's been great to be, again, closer to my family. My whole family still lives in Minnesota, so I've been able to see, my parents by, driving by, but my
Yeah,
sisters, my nieces and nephews. So it's just been wonderful, and it's so beautiful here. And enjoying the sun. It's just been great.
that's great. Thanks for sharing that background. And of
Yeah.
course, here it is early December in Fargo, and we still have no snow. And we have, to this point, had one of the warmer stretches uh, of November, December weather that we've had on record. So we will thank Kimberly Wallin for bringing that with us. So hey, why not?
I'll
That's a
take
win. Yeah.
it.
So, as we've talked about, you started right when the COVID-19 pandemic began, and certainly first year in any position is really about listening and learning and getting out and meeting and greeting your role. Obviously, the faculty, the students, the external community. A little bit of a challenge given this environment. Can you just talk about how your first few months and have gone in terms of addressing your learning curve here as dean?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. I mean, like you said, any person coming into a new leadership position, you know, before you arrive, you're excited. You have your 30-day plan, your 60-day, your 1 year, how you're going to prioritize your time. And of course, at the top of that is, like you said, getting to know people, listening, learning the culture, finding out why people love it here and stay. And like you said, no one would have predicted that my third day at NDSU, like all the other deans, was asked to put together a COVID response plan. So again, third day, so not meeting a lot of people to come up with a plan. So I really needed to quickly reprioritize what I was going to do, because I went in, I came in, thinking I'm going to learn about the culture, and then quickly needed to kind of go into crisis management, crisis planning, and communication. So I did that along with everyone else on campus and throughout the nation. One of the interesting things, though, I was still able to keep that top priority of listening and learning about the place, but in a very different way, and probably a lot more quickly in some ways. I did a lot of Zoom meetings, of course, but I also wanted to meet people where they were comfortable. So if they were comfortable with meeting outside, with face coverings or without, going for a walk, I did that. So I did a lot of walking meetings, which was absolutely wonderful. The weather's beautiful. It's nice to get out, move around, and have a conversation to get to know people. And in doing that, boy, it became so clear how committed the faculty and staff are to student learning, to the success of the college, and to NDSU. That, all throughout this, I just keep coming back to that, because we will come out stronger with that energy and that passion for the place.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Again, you started at the right time. We're coming into springtime, and then you had the benefit of the summer, and
Right.
probably worked your way through a few pairs of walking shoes with uh, that kind of learning curve,
Exactly.
which is fantastic. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. You mentioned, getting here and having to reprioritize and kind of turn to a different approach, crisis management, if as you will. Our faculty and students also had to reprioritize and utilize their creativity and ingenuity to deliver the education that they need to share with our students, and then continue to conduct research. And one of the things we wanted to take a moment here to do is one of your college's faculty members, Jesse Rock, is actually a lecturer in geosciences.
Yeah.
And we wanted to share a video that demonstrates, I think, adaptability during this time. So let's take a moment and see
Excellent.
see how Jesse and the geosciences program adapted.
I spent much of my summer compiling lab kits for the geology majors. And I wanted to make sure that they had a hands-on experience, much like they would if they came into the lab. And we gave them the option of working from home with these lab kits, or keeping their own private kit in the classroom and working with teaching assistants who wanted to be on campus.
Compiling the kits was a lot of time, a lot of effort. We had to make sure we had 72 of all the maps, 72 of all the rock kits, minerals, stuff like that. And then we had to kind of go around and find the other resources that we needed. So Jesse reached out to the ND Geologic Survey and got some extra road maps that were graciously donated by them that'll be used later this fall. And then really just making sure that we had everything in line and everything ready to go for all 72 of the lab kits.
We went to the railroad tracks here on campus to collect the remaining samples that we needed for the igneous rock kits. And we collected a lot of granite and basalt samples, so we were looking for the different crystal sizes and colors to differentiate them. In a normal semester, they would get these rock kits on the counter, and they'd have a map where it had all the different rock names, and they would go through the different properties of the rocks and try to identify them. And then as TAs, we would go through and tell them if they were right or wrong, and help them learn the mistakes that they made, so that they didn't make them in the future. This year they have the rock kits on their own in the mats, so they're able to go through the videos that Jesse provided and try to learn those different rock types. And then we still have TAs in the lab so that they can come and ask questions if they need.
So the benefit of having the kits in hand, and I think this is really where geosciences kind of separates themselves from a lot of the other sciences, is you can actually see geosciences in the real world. And so being able to have these kits and not having to look at a rock online or look at minerals online, to be able to see them and actually see what they're like, feel what they're like, as weird as that maybe sounds, is so important to the geosciences and so important to the science itself. Just being able to utilize them and have them in person to see them and see what they're like, rather than just having them be read off on a lecture slide.
What a great example of adaptability by our faculty, lecturers, and students through that program. Kimberly, can you talk a little bit more about how you've seen our faculty and your students continue that adaptability through this fall semester?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to. So the NDSU was really wise in how they elected to adapt as a university by incorporating really state-of-the-art technology in the classrooms. And so this, that was a really, like I said, it was a very thoughtful thing to do. And what it has allowed our faculty and students to do is to use a high flex model in the classroom. So this the students can be in the classroom or they can be remote, but they'll through the technology, it's in real time. So we're still learning and creating and teaching in real time. which is really important. The other things, so that's more campus wide, but within the college, a lot of our classes are lab based, not just geosciences, but a lot of the other classes are lab based. And so what our faculty and students decided to do in some of the labs is actually videotape them and then give the students data to work through some of the labs that where they would have been generating that data. The interesting thing that I don't think any of us anticipated with this is that the students liked it more than we thought, because they can go back and redo the labs multiple times. Or when it, if as they're studying, they can't remember something, they can go back and review it. So that's something that, again, not anticipated. We have one faculty member in our physics department that previous to the pandemic had been kind of toying around with iPad technology and how to make physics more relatable. That's a complicated topic. And so when the pandemic and we started to teach remotely, he was a leader in the department and in our college at showing faculty what could be done and working with students with iPad technology, but how they can learn and teach physics. So that's been, really something that kind of pushed that forward a little bit quicker. And the other thing that I think it's just really at the forefront in our chemistry, biochemistry, they're actually using infographics. So they're using graphics to display or demonstrate chemical and biochemical processes. And in fact, they're going to be sharing those on Twitter today between 2 and 3 p.m. Of what the students, how they visualize it and then share it out. So if anybody's on Twitter and they want to take a look at that, hashtag NDSU College of Science and Math, and I'll be retweeting those so folks can see what our faculty and students are doing in chemistry and biochemistry.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. I appreciate the hashtag. I wasn't sure if you were going to share the Twitter handle or the hashtag, but hashtag is a little bit easier, I think, to follow right there. So yeah, that's great.
NDSU, yeah.
So we've talked quite a bit about the COVID-19 pandemic and how the state and obviously the region of the world have had to respond to the crisis. North Dakota State and its faculty and programs have been directly contributing to helping our states respond. And can you talk a little bit about the work of your statistics departments and how they are helping with from a data perspective with COVID-19?
Yeah. One of our statistics professors, Dr. Chow, and he's mentoring. The other interesting thing I want to make sure we don't forget, he is mentoring a graduate student on this as well. So our graduate students, true to the NDSU land grant mission, are taking their research and bringing it back to the state. So what the state has requested of him is to use his predictive models and statistics to take a look at infection rates on a daily basis, rates of hospitalization, to be able to predict forward. I won't go into the details except to say that you can use the data, the previous data in a time series analysis to predict it forward, to be very informative of how the state can then respond most efficiently and effectively for our citizens.
Yeah, that story demonstrates the third leg of the mission of a land-grant university in terms of outreach and service to the citizens, which is so vitally important.
It is. It's absolutely critical. That's one of the things I didn't mention, but you did. I have been at several land-grant institutions, and that really rings true to me, is the the teaching, the research, and then bringing that research back out to the state to be put to good use. Yep.
So a conversation like this would not be complete without talking about the importance, influence, and impact and difference making that philanthropy has and the college and NDSU. And as you know, we did this a little bit before you arrived, but you've certainly been a part of it over the last year. And that is, a year ago, we launched a $400 million campaign called In Our Hands to support NDSU. And science and mathematics has certainly been a part of that. And we're really grateful to all the wonderful benefactors that are making a difference for your college and for every aspect of the university to lift up our students and faculty. Can you share just a little bit about the importance of philanthropy in your college and what some of your priorities are for making a difference?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. One of the main priorities that I have in my role and for the college is that we identify barriers for student success and that we then address them. And we have a really strong faculty that actually does research on how students learn and what context in which they learn the best. So we know things. We know where some of those barriers lie, and we know some of the actions we can take. So, for example, getting students in the door through scholarships is absolutely critical. That's one of the first barriers. But keeping students and having them be engaged, we know then retains them. So, again, scholarships to get them in the door, but then having programs where students can feel part of a community. So peer mentoring, being involved in research like I was way back in the day. So having those experiences of internships, so to kind of narrow that gap of familiarity of what will I do with this degree. And all of those, they sound great, but for a lot of our students, they have to work. And so those opportunities really aren't available unless they're paid for the student. Also, our graduate student fellowships are very important, but graduate students also taking care of themselves. It's a very stressful time in graduate school. So having a named wellness fund would be absolutely wonderful, where graduate students could then, apply or be awarded money or scholarships to take care of themselves. And you and I have talked about endowed professorships, but also named visiting professors. Let's bring professors from outside of NDSU for a year where they can bring their expertise to our faculty and our students. Those are just some of the things, as well as, and we know that the active classrooms are very, very effective. So we know that they work, so let's invest in them and then invest in our students, in future generations of our students. So there are so many ways that everyone can help with student success and removing those barriers.
Yeah. The list is long, and that's fantastic. And certainly here at NDSU, we encourage donors to support the things in the areas that they are most passionate about. And within the foundation, we actually have probably in the neighborhood of 1,800 designated gift funds from A to Z. So, and certainly in science and mathematics, every program has those opportunities too.
Absolutely.
So there's something for everybody.
That there is.
That's great. So turning to a little bit to, we have time for a couple of questions, I think, from our listeners and audience today, which again, we're really grateful to everybody for participating, and we're recording this video, and we'll push it out and share it with our constituents after this is done, so that they can go back and have an opportunity to watch it or share with their friends. So a question for you. So in the world of science and mathematics, you cover a lot, of course, and one of the pressing issues of the day in our society is in the area of climate change. And regardless of where or how people maybe view it from a political spectrum, I think the reality is the climate is changing. It's always been changing. And today it happens there's no snow on the ground in Fargo in mid-December. And typically there is, but it just, could you share a few thoughts? Certainly your own teaching and research was in areas that are core to this, and just share a few thoughts that you have about our changing climate.
Certainly. I think that, the topic of climate change, it has so many facets to it. My perspective is to stick with the science. What is the science showing us? What evidence do we have of the claims that are being made? And what actions can we take based on that evidence, if any? And so, yes, I think climate change is real. I think accepting that and understanding that is very important for the future. It sounds rather dramatic, but for the future of the planet. But certainly, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We need to take a look and trust the science.
And so, at the heart of the college certainly are our students. And, we've covered in 30 minutes, it's hard to cover, and go into much detail, but can we just, talk a little bit about, the students that you've met in the college and what impresses you the most, or so that's one direction. And the other is, maybe can you just speak a little bit about, this has been an incredibly challenging semester for students across the land and certainly here. And can you just speak a little bit to how they persevered and what's impressed you the most?
Yes. So one of the to kind of frame this, so I haven't had an opportunity to meet as many students as I would like. Knowing that, right, I decided to co-teach a class. So I was actually in the classroom this semester, so I could understand as the dean what the students and the faculty were experiencing with the high flex, with all of this uncertainty. And what has impressed me with the students is they show up. That sounds small, but they show up. And in fact, some of the technology I referred to, I have to remind myself, a lot of students were born, since 2000. And so their comfort with the technology is a lot different than mine. And so there's actually been some increased faculty are seeing increased in participation of students. So they're showing up and they're engaged. And those are two very important elements of student success. And the class that I was involved in, students, they asked really riveting questions. Like I said, they showed up and were involved. And then more stepping back into a dean's role, I was really impressed with both the student and the faculty compassion and empathy and patience they had for each other. The students' patience with the faculty learning this technology, and the faculty, the patience with the students learning the course material through a very different way. So
I think it's fantastic to hear that one of our deans is in the classroom. I think that's really important for students today. As the father of a daughter who's a sophomore in college and a couple of sons who are in high school, I do think having the opportunity to interact with leaders of the institution and get to know them personally in that regard and learn from them is important, because your career and life's journey has provided so many experiences, and that's fantastic that you're willing to share. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
We're almost done, and what I want to do here, Kimberly, is give you the opportunity to just share the last words. We've covered a lot of ground, but what final takeaways would you like to leave our guests today?
Well, first, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, and thank you, John, for the opportunity to have this meet and greet. I've said previously that it might sound a little cliche, but the people at this institution, in the College of Science and Math, and the stakeholders that I've been able to meet are just amazing, and the commitment and the resilience that I've seen that, you know, I may have never seen, or may have taken a long time to understand that without the pandemic. So having to meet people in less than ideal circumstances, you do tend to get to know them a little bit better, a little bit more quickly. And again, one of the things that it's a quote that often when there are constraints, it promotes innovation, and I'm seeing a lot of that on campus, and a lot of caring and compassion with people at NDSU and the College of Science and Math and our friends. So with that, I'll thank you, and maybe go outside and go for a walk in this nice weather.
That sounds fantastic. And get up out of the office and go for a walk. So let's do this again sometime.
That sounds
fun
great.
conversation, and certainly a lot of folks to continue to get connected with. We want
Yes.
our friends to stay involved with the college and the institution, and hopefully these are ways to be able to get out to meet folks. So for all of those listening in and participating today, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you down the road. Take care.